Hi, this is Ed again in San Diego, California, and you're on a Global TV Talk Show. Uh, we've been broadcasting Global TV Talk Show since I did a ice cold start on or about March 1 of 2020 because of the COVID shutting down my 30 years of doing live meetings like that, bang. And so I've been practicing how to do this almost every day. And so we've been able to produce, finance, and distribute 730 programs so far. And this is, I think, number 731, or maybe it's 732. And it's going to be available free, global free access 24/7, 365 once we publish this. There will be some people tuning in from around the world on this, but they want to be in the background and not be public. So most of the audience is going to be going forward from the exhibition and distribution through our network, which I call GTV now, Global TV Network, which is YouTube, mainly YouTube and LinkedIn, but also Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, although those are minor. I haven't done TikTok yet. Has anyone here done TikTok?
Yes,
Yeah,
we have TikTok, yes.
yeah. Is it for younger people, or can an old guy like me use that without looking stupid?
No, you have so many lawyers, immigration lawyers. We have one. He's Argentinian, but he's a lawyer in the US, Julio, and he have like 2 million followers.
Yeah, great.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. So, Karina, please introduce yourself better than I did. You're an international attorney, originally from Argentina, now in Brazil. And
Yes.
who are your typical customers, if I may ask?
Well, thank you so much for the invitation. Hello, everyone. I'm Karina from Argentina. I have a company called Immigration Consulting that we do immigration in Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay. In immigration consulting, we also introduce international business support because Brazil is a monster. Everyone wants to arrive. And everything started to grow. So we opened a new company called Ingrowth that is a model like a startup, international growing. So we have IC and IJ.
So you help
And
businesses and people, not just immigration, but that's part of it, of course.
yes, of course, attached, right? When you do international business, it's attached to that. And we help them to land in Brazil, in Argentina, or in Uruguay, but also we help Brazilians to leave Brazil and go to other parts. Now we are trying to make an structure for Europe. Most of the people, the first play, of course, is Portugal, but then we want to try to move to other parts of Europe.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, meet Sergey Gorbatov, who I've known for a few years. He's an HR professional, pharmaceutical, and has recently opened his own shop. And it's all about learning about the edge and how to get the edge. Why don't you describe the 2 or 3 ways that you can help people gain an edge?
Sure. I help companies to set up their talent management processes and get the talent edge or culture edge. I help individuals through coaching to get their edge on performance or their careers. And I help teams to get their edge through team interventions, collective coaching, and specific interventions that are targeted at team effectiveness.
And how's it going for you?
Good, good. It's great to be my own boss.
That means you work 24/7 like me.
No. I live in Spain.
Okay. So that means that you have dinner at 10 o'clock at night or what?
Sometimes.
Yeah. So when you have a dinner, it's probably a very pleasant dinner at that hour, but I can't imagine doing that. But I guess if I were on holiday in Spain during the summer and it was 100 degrees during the day, a late night wine-soaked
Well,
dinner would be great.
if you want to get into a good restaurant on a Friday or a Saturday, they would have shifts. And the first shift will be like 8:30 to 10, and the second
Uh,
shift from 10 to midnight or something. So you might get a second shift and start your dinner later than that.
So that means that you stay up late and you sleep late.
Exactly.
Yeah. They just move the clock. Okay, welcome again. How was that recent conference in Sao Paulo, the Worldwide ERC? Was it good?
For me,
Yeah,
it was really good.
yeah. No, what was great with the ERC in Sao Paulo. Our director in country was attended, and well, next will be this month will be the ERC worldwide in Boston. Then all the countries will attend to them, and we also have a directors meeting when we will set the goals for the company to the next year.
Yeah, that's great. I'm not going to be able to make it in Boston, but it certainly would be a great time. I'm originally from that area. I know it quite well. So let's go to Stephen Howard. Many of you already know Stephen is an famous author and a leadership coach. His 22nd book has been awarded the Blue Ribbon and gold medals, and it's called Humany, Humony, and humanyleadership.com. And now Stephen is becoming really active on the speaking circuit, was recently the keynoter in Cincinnati at the National Association of Home Builders, and you've spoken at other companies as well. Tell us some of your takeaways from doing this kind of PR tour.
Well, I think the first takeaway, it's nice that the meetings industry is back. That we are having live meetings and conferences, and people are getting together with precautions, of course. I think that's my first takeaway. The second takeaway, though, is interesting. 5 years ago or so, the meetings industry was looking for the inspirational speaker, the motivational, the high energy. Not quite rah, but really get people motivated. And that's totally changed. It's made a huge pivot. And most meeting planners today are looking for thought leaders, actionable content, making people think rather than just trying to inspire them and have a good time and have a good laugh. So it's changed a little bit from 5 years ago.
Yeah, so it's the right time and right place for your message.
It's perfect for me. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I couldn't be happier with the situation.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Jorge, what do you see coming out of the recent Sao Paulo meeting? What do you see are companies in your group, LARM? Are they hiring people, or is it everybody hunkering down because they're not sure what's going to happen?
No, I think it's a lot of movement. I think it's interesting because everybody thought that we will stop and freezing for the economy and the challenges this year, but I saw different in the practice because we will going to open to other like invitation to work for us, and the company who work with us are moving, and they have a lot of plans for 2004. And I think will be great year. The next, I think the region will be grow, like small steps, but comfortable steps, especially Brazil. Argentina is like different because the recent election will be like challenge all the economic and political decision for the next, I think, 4 years. But Brazil, Uruguay, Chile, Peru have a great opportunity to grow, and Mexico too. Mexico is very interesting because they are working great, like quietly but great. And I think Mexico will be the focus of the Latin America in the next 6 years.
Yeah, well, Stephen, you and I discussed this the other day about all the dramatic economic growth that's going on in Mexico and its diversity.
It's diversity. It's across industries. It started with manufacturing, but something we call here nearshoring. Chinese, Japanese, other Asian companies moving in automobile parts manufacturing and assembly, electronics. There was just a delegation from the United States here 2 days ago in Mexico City to talk about the potential semiconductor industry. Huge opportunity. So, but now it's also extending into services. I mean, the English language skills have improved. People are building websites for U.S. Canadian companies. I know an education institution here in Mexico City where they are teaching cinematography, animation, video game coding, sound engineering, and companies like Pixar now are doing some of their animation work in Mexico. So I think that's a great opportunity. The other opportunity, and I'll be quick about this. I see also is not only are the Asian expats coming in, to head up these manufacturing type operations, but what I really see and impressed by, and I saw this when I lived in Asia. I lived in Asia in the 1980s, and in the 1990s, we started seeing Asian expats, Singaporeans moving to Taiwan, Taiwanese moving to Hong Kong or Malaysia, Japanese moving to India. I'm seeing the same thing in Asia now, in Latin America, where we're seeing, Karina's a good example, born in Argentina, but now an expatriate in Brazil. I'm seeing a lot of, I know so many Colombians and Venezuelans working in Mexico City or around Mexico, for instance. So I think that is, as Jorge says, the next 6 years, I think Mexico is going to be the focus, but it's also going to be the focus, kind of a conduit, Asia through Mexico to North America, the rest of North America, Canada and United States, but also a conduit for Latin America to conduit through Mexico to the rest of the world. So I think there's a great opportunity in Latin America.
Well, it's really interesting because here in San Diego on the Mexican border, it's not as porous as the press is making out, but and there's just a ton of military on the border now. But just interestingly, the newspaper, San Diego paper, had a story about a couple of thousand people from China showed up 8 miles from where I'm sitting right here at Tijuana, trying to get in the U.S. legally. And they were processed in. And so the questioning was, why are they doing that? Are they spies or are these normal people? So the Chinese economy apparently is slowing down in such a way as that people who can afford to travel are trying to get into the U.S. and make a life away from China. I don't know what all that really means long term, but it's current, really fascinating. So, Sergey, you relocated from Spain into the U.S., Southern California, and now you're back in Europe. So it feels like home, right?
Spain is home. That's where my apartment is. That's where my family is. But relocating is no longer something big. I've relocated probably 7 times in my life. So going to South Africa, Switzerland, Spain, California, going to Ohio. The first time was scary, and I remember I was running around all those packers and saying, "Oh, careful with this, careful with that." Second time they came and say, "Here are the keys, and see you in 8 hours." So yeah, moving back was not that much of a culture shock or something that I was.
Yeah, interesting. So I have a program tomorrow on repatriation, and there's several different speakers with varying degrees of expatriation experiences, either managing it or actually doing it. So when you repatriated back, it was not a culture shock.
No, no, it was not. And being just 2 years away, it wasn't it wasn't that long of a period. And in any case, I was visiting. I was going back and forth between Europe and California, and I was staying probably before. It was much harder when we only had phone, and even phone wasn't reliable. But today, you FaceTime, you WhatsApp, you're constantly, and you know what your friends are doing, you know what your family is doing. So when you go back, it's like you haven't left. You are up to date with everything. You are in the WhatsApp groups. You are in the same channels. So you go back and you integrate seamlessly into those relationships that you were part of before you left for your assignment.
Oh, thank you for that. So tell us, are you working on a new book?
Yes. Yes. How did you know?
I just guessed.
It's a book about career management, and it will put forward a model on managing anyone's career. And basically, we looked at our experience, we looked at our research, and we asked the question: if we don't know what the future is going to look like, if we don't know what the world of work is going to bring us, what are the few behaviors that will lead to success no matter what? That is, in the world of uncertainty and ambiguity, are there any proven, true, and sure ways to get fulfillment at work, to get success in career? And we've outlined 10 behaviors, right? So you align to purpose, you draft your pathways, you do great work, you are a rewarding colleague, you develop intentionally, you build your networks, build your brand, and so on. And we're putting forward that model in the book. There is an assessment that we built and validated. So that assessment will accompany the book, and anyone can take that assessment. And it's coming out in May 2024.
Well, good luck. That's great. Okay, now you said that you're in Amsterdam as part of PhD ceremony. Now, I understand you already have a PhD. So did you help this student gain that?
Yes, that was my PhD student. And it's funny because I only have two, and both of them graduate in October. So I'm here. Today was one defense, and I'll be coming back for the second one on October 30th. And two very different topics. Today was about feedback and feedback culture and how to foster feedback culture in an organization. And the one in October will be on the topic of eudaimonic well-being. That is how to get to sustainable well-being and the eudaimonic well-being as opposed to hedonic well-being. Hedonic is all about fun and excitement and having a good time. Eudaimonic well-being would derive from three factors that we uncovered through this research work, which is purpose, relationships, and personal growth. So
It's fascinating. Wow.
I'm very proud of those two ladies, and they really did momentous work.
Great. Stephen, what do you think of that?
That sounds fascinating. I like the second one, the focus on personal growth in alignment with purpose. So I think that's well done, Sergey, for coaching both of those or mentoring both of those ladies to their PhDs. Good for you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Stephen, tell us about how you are helping others write books. Are you, I know you have a magic formula. I'm not asking for any secrets here, but
I remember that, and I was thinking, oh my God, I have 10 chapters, not 16. And like, oh, I didn't do it right. So I really need to quickly write up a couple more.
No, the whole concept, Sergey, was very simple. I mean, that's where you start. Look, my last book, I think, had 17 chapters. So but that's how I started. And I've had books that only had 12 or 13 chapters. So I guess for your audience, I should explain this a little bit. This is for nonfiction writing. This is where my forte is where I help other people. And I created a 4x4 matrix and said, look, when you're writing a book, first of all, you need to stop and decide, what do you want the reader to think, do, and feel as they read this book? And I actually now apply that chapter by chapter. So there's the new tip for you, Sergey, is that for every chapter, what at the end of they read this chapter, what do you want them to think, do, and feel? And sometimes do is simply go on to the next chapter and continue reading. But in your case, it might be do the assessment, for instance, or do some reflection points or something. But to get back to the 4x4 matrix, I basically say when you write a nonfiction book, mostly business related, but personal development or professional development, have 4 key messages. What are your 4 key messages? So if I took the lady who's doing the feedback PhD, and I said, well, what's your 4 key messages about feedback? And she might, whatever they are, she has A, B, C, and D. And then what are the 4 major supporting messages for each of those? So let's say feedback, one of them is feedback should be continuous, if that's one of her main messages. And then what are the 4 elements below that to reemphasize that? Like, for instance, how often you do it, the timeliness of feedback. Do you do it immediately after an incident? You do it before the next incident, whatever that may be. And so now you have 4 supporting messages for the first section of the book about the timeliness of feedback. And that gives you 16 chapters if you work it out that way. Doesn't always finish that way, but that's my matrix. So yeah, I help authors, and I see Ileana's just joined me. Ileana's introduced me to a lady in Suriname who I'm actually working with now and helping to bring her book to the marketplace by early next year. So I help people who are passionate. I only help those who are passionate about their writing, passionate about their subject, and if it has to do with personal, professional development, typically.
Thank you, Stephen. Welcome, Ileana.
How you guys doing? Can
Oh,
you hear me
good.
well?
Yeah,
Good.
yeah, absolutely perfect. Great to see you again. So I sent you a memo a little while ago asking you to resend your talking points because I seem to have lost them. So why don't you briefly introduce yourself? Folks, Ileana has been on the program a couple of times at the courtesy introduction of Stephen and Adriana. And so welcome to the family again.
Thank you, Ed, and thank you, Stephen, for we connect each other to really great people, and I think that's the wonderful and exciting part of all this. And so I'm born and raised in Venezuela, my home country, but moved here to the States when in 2003, in the middle of a chaos in Venezuela. But I was planning coming here to do my MBA, end up getting married, have my kids, and continue my job here. So you never know what destiny has for you. And I work for an oil and gas corporation, big, huge corporation. And last year, after 24 years, I decided to go independent. And now I have my own consulting firm in the area that I'm passionate, like Stephen said. It's economic growth and prosperity for resource-rich countries, usually developing countries. And that's what I do for a living and joy. I have 2 girls, 17 and 19, one in college, one in high school. And my husband, it's a gringo from Mississippi, but he speaks perfect Spanish. So this house, we speak Spanish, even the dog.
Boy, that's really interesting. And you're in Texas.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so now your background was with a multinational energy company, and now you're focusing in on economic development, even though in I don't know, smaller, or I don't even want to use the word poorer countries because they have oil and gas, but how to use that, how to diversify, and how to build up the people and other industries connected in those areas, correct?
Yeah, in oil and gas, there's a term that it's called local content, and that's pretty much how you bring local economic development to those countries that are resource rich. It's not only used in oil and gas, also in mining, and that used to be called the extractive industries. Now I think it's the energy sector, because even in renewables and with this energy transition, you can still use the revenue for that, and the infrastructure is can be used to do to create economic growth for the country. But it's pretty much I like to call it to use three elements to describe what local content is. And one is workforce development. It's how do you develop the skills of this workforce? So you do it by training, by recruitment, by hiring them. Sometimes as secondees, I mean, bringing one person from one company, usually government, to a private sector to learn. So, and that's where you bring up, upgrade or upskill the knowledge and the experience of this workforce. Second is the supplier development, and that is same as the workforce, but you bring capabilities to the local suppliers, and with that you increase their chances of getting contracts, and pretty much what you're creating, it's a ripple effect. The more capable the suppliers are, the more competitive your market is, and that's kind of the goal. And these suppliers, when they are developed, then employ more people, and then they can develop the skills of the people. And the third component is technology transfer. And people think that technology is just, everything that is tech. And no, technology is, it's encompasses different things. And one of the most important is the tacit knowledge, the transfer of tacit knowledge or know-how. And that happens from one expat to a local, or you bring research and development, but in order to that knowledge that it's embedded in someone's brain, it can only be transferred while you are working with that person, and it takes years. It doesn't happen overnight. One day it will be, who knows if it already exists, that we introduce a chip with all the knowledge that we have, and we can transfer. For now, it's just the one-to-one contact. So that's pretty much what I work in. And I spent a lot of time working with the private sector, with one company, and I realized that governments and small and medium enterprises would really need some support. So I wanted to help specifically that audience. So though they are my
Great.
clients.
Okay, now I want to introduce Karina, who's an international attorney. So I want to bring you guys together. This is all about networking, and this is what I call the global meeting room. You enter as strangers, but you depart as friends. And so use the chat to exchange contact info and any other items, because that's your ROI from this adventure here. Or a welcome to the conversation again. What do you think of all this talk about internationalism? It's right up your alley. It's right in your sweet spot.
No, for me, is I think it is the future that we're living now. All the companies around the world have foreign colleagues. Everyone wants to move to other country to sell their services and promote their own products. I'm just like having in the office. I work in WeWork, so that make me have office around the world. And I mean, real at the moment, and someone knocked my door, asked me how to do an international program for students come to Brazil to learn Portuguese. Everything is moving around, and I think Brazil and Mexico will be the focus for the next years. That's for sure. For me, it's an advantage that I speak fluently both language, Spanish and Portuguese. So people around LatAm always talk to me to have partnership. For me, RC was amazing because the small law firms around LatAm who actually want to land in Brazil were looking for me for help, because it's really weird when an Argentinian lawyer that also is a Brazilian lawyer live in Brazil and work with all. It's not usual. Most of the people said that to me. So for me, I'm really happy. The slogan of my company is that we are not just companies, we are a movement of citizens of the world, and that means we can be for a country and work in another and moving around. I live and breathe immigration and international things, so I'm really more than happy
Oh, that's
when this
great.
happens.
So, Jorge, I want to ask you, are relocatees into Latin America from outside of Latin America, people who are relocating, are they buying real estate or everybody's renting?
No, no. It is again about the U.S. culture. They always rent it because it's better for them, because the real estate market is more dynamic, and because it's cheaper. It's cheaper for them to rent. On the long term, they will repatriate it to the U.S. or Europe, or well, they have their roof. But here in Latin American, always is renting. It's not like common they buy.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. So, where do we go from here in this conversation? Sergey, you wrote the book about feedback, you and Angela Lane, and it, feedback is the same everywhere in every country, isn't it?
Feedback is the same in every country. The way how it's given and received is different.
Yeah, okay. Go deeper.
Countries differ on a variety of factors. Some countries, like the Asian cultures, they have this concept of face. It's very important to preserve face, so you would never give constructive feedback to someone in public. And even in Western countries, we probably won't be doing that very often, but it's more it's more acceptable. In some countries, particularly in Northern European countries, you can give it like it is without beating about the bush. In other countries, you really need to establish the relationship first, and you really need to first build up the confidence, or make sure that the relationship first is okay before other people allow you to give them feedback, or they say, okay, who are you to give me this feedback? Relationship first, feedback second. And there are countries that are more we're here to work, we're here about performance, more industrial industrialist mentality countries, where okay, we're colleagues, and if I see you doing something right, I see you doing something wrong, and I'm going to tell you about this, even if I just met you. So of course there are differences, and if you want to be effective, you need to be aware of those differences.
So, in your position, you have this is praise. You have an expertise in communicating across cultures and across sex and across age and across silos. So this is truly an expertise, and many people don't have that skill. And so, as an outsider, and I'm just the talk show host here, it seems to me that this is really a difficult job, to be an international people. I hate to use the word because Stephen is here, manager, coach, or leader, or something. What's the right word in an international context, Sergey? I'm not an HR manager. I'm not a leader. I'm just
It's difficult to be people
opinionated.
manager. Managing people is tough, right? And you really need to have the right mindset. You need to have the mindset that whatever you're doing, you need to be doing it for the long-term benefit of the person and the organization. If we go to feedback, what is feedback? Feedback is information about something that you want the person either to continue doing because they're doing it well, or it's information, it's an expectation of change because they're doing something suboptimally, and you see how the person can be doing better. So if you're withholding the information of how the person can be better, then you are not helping them develop. You're holding back their development. So and that is a mentality shift. The same with feedback across genders. We know from research, the three big research findings that women get less feedback than men. When they get feedback, the feedback is disproportionately on their personality and behaviors versus skills, hard skills. And third, even when they get feedback, the chances are very high that it's fake. So for that data, for that empirical data to be there, so that a variety of studies have found it, the managers who were giving that feedback to both men and women, giving more feedback on skills to men, giving more feedback on behaviors, giving more feedback to men, less feedback to women, giving fake and accurate feedback to women and more correct feedback to men. What were they thinking? What was their mindset? Were they trying to protect? Were they playing political games? Was it about power? Was it about something else? And so until we get this mindset right, that managers, whenever they have the job of managing others, they need to do it in the long-term service of the person's success and the organizational success. I don't think that we can change much. We can train them to death, but until they believe in what they're doing, that's where the real change is needed.
Yeah, thank you for that, Stephen.
I love that. When what Sergey is talking about also applies to, and I hate the phrase positive feedback, and I don't use it, but that's the common lingo. But the same thing's true when you want to praise somebody. There are certain cultures where you don't praise in public, and as a leader, you figure that out pretty quickly, or not even in certain cultures, but just people's background. And the first thing they'll say, like if I want to praise Jorge, I say, hey, Jorge, you did a really fantastic job leading that project. And he goes, oh, no, it wasn't me, it was the team. Then you pick up that clue that he's the type of person that would prefer that sort of praise, that sort of feedback in a more private setting rather than a public setting, because it can be embarrassing. And, I'm thinking about collective society such as Thailand. I mean, as you know, I lived in Asia for many years, and in Thailand, you tend not to give public praise to an individual. You'll praise the team collectively. So it applies across the board. So Sergey is absolutely right there. I think the mindset is the key. And as you know, that's the focus of my latest book, is about the human leadership mindset. And that's what I speak on. I speak on the leadership mindset. I don't talk about leadership skills, leadership behaviors. I'll give them some tips and techniques of things to do. But it's a mindset change, and that's really where we have to go as leaders going forward. As Sergey has heard me say before, and he's correct in that, using the phrase when you're managing people, well, that is the phrase people use, but I'm trying to convince people that you don't manage people, you lead people, you manage things, you manage processes, you manage procedures, you manage policies, you manage projects, but you don't manage people. No one wakes up in the morning and wants to be managed. And certainly no one wants to wake up and be micromanaged. Now, I'm overstating that because, yes, as a leader, you still have some managerial responsibility. So don't take me wrong here. But I'm saying that to get people, kind of wake people up and go, well, wait a second, let me think about that. And if I lead people, if I mentor people, if I coach people, if I give feedback in the proper way that's effective, that explains the impact of what they're doing, or the upside impact if they do make a change, or the potential negative impact if they don't make a change, now I'm leading people, not managing them. And so that's the mindset change to me. But a lot of this is terminology.
Thank you very much. Let's go back to Ileana. Let's talk about Latinas. And you sent me these notes, and I really thank you. And I am a total novice at what I'm going to ask you about. So I'm just a mouthpiece. I'm not nothing else.
Shoot it.
Okay, so Latin women, or Latina Latin man or Latino, no Latinx or so this is just being knowledgeable, culturally knowledgeable and smart.
Yeah, I wanted to use it as a good talking point because as a Latina, it I think it's maybe lack of knowledge or ignorance, or I don't know. I don't want to but sometimes it sounds like I don't know what they call it. Oh, the Latinos. Oh, you women are Latino. No, Latino and Latina comes from, if you have learned a language, there's the masculine and feminine. So to women is Latina, and in plural Latinas. To men is a Latino men or Latinos. So just by putting everything, oh, they are Latino or you Latino people. No, it's I like to always correct that. And now I've been hearing this name of calling Latinx. Why Latinx? And is this whole thing about he, she, whatever? We're Latinos all as a group, and Latina and Latino. So I don't usually correct people about it, but certainly just wanted to tell them, I mean, non-Spanish speaking people, that you you call Venezuelan Venezolana or Venezolano, Americano, Americana, Ruso, Rusa, and so on. So there's in Spanish it's like that, and there are some languages that also had the adjective has a differentiation when it's female or male or masculine or feminine. But now with this whole thing, she, her, they, them, whatever, I don't know if the Latinx also it's a matter of going in. I don't know. As a Latina, I don't like to be call someone some like put it in a group, like in a bag. Okay, you are Latino people. No, I'm a Latina, and so maybe
No,
Jorge,
yeah,
what do
that's
you think
really
there?
interesting. Yeah, that's good. No, this kind of a discussion is really interesting. Don't forget our audience out there is really broad and a whole lot of Americans. And so this is going to be very, very helpful. Now, there's another thing before we get to Jorge uh, about what you sent me here about wanting to have fun at work. All right, rather than, nose to the grindstone slave driver.
Yeah, and and it reminds me, this is a lot of biases. They said, oh, the Latinos and Latinas, they all always come late or arrive late, and invite them to a party, and they're the last ones. So Latinos are never punctual, and at work, they say, oh, they tend to transfer those bias to the corporate world, to the professional area, and I remember I never worked so hard in my life like my time when I work in Venezuela. So that was where you work. I won't say crazy hours, but you give your 100%, your 200% because you were passionate. And I never had that feeling of when I was waking in the morning, I said, "Oh, I have to go to work," like I did when working here. It's like, "Oh my God, I'm going to work," and because it was so fun being there with the group, it was just working but having fun. And then you used to go to cubicle to greeting people with your coffee, and then but it was time to work. We work really hard. And so I believe there is that balance where you can work hard, produce good results, but have fun. And at the end of the day, we all had to go downstairs or we're at a cafeteria, we got coffees or we have drinks. So those years in working in Venezuela were the years that I always say when we were happy and we didn't know it because you work hard, you work a lot, you put all the hours, and you didn't care about, oh, I'm staying till late, but you had fun. And that's something that in corporate America, it's like you feel you had that feeling of guilt, or it's they're gonna look you bad. So there's people have to go to work and it's like work, 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 but you don't have fun. And when I was in corporate America, we have our group of Latin, so the Latin mafia. And I remember we're sitting in like a cafeteria, and our group, our table was the one that we're laughing hard and having so much fun, and then go back to work. But that's how we are. But maybe it's just among us. So it's hard for other people with other cultures or even Americans to understand that dynamic. My husband now knows that when we're going to a Latin party, oh, there's going to be so much fun. We dance. You go to an American party, people don't dance; they just listen to music. So it's the way we have fun. I don't say that one is better than the other. It's just the ways we were raised, and we bring that to wherever we go. So I like to work hard, but have fun, and that's something that we should be, free and feel good about it, because you give more. You give that 200% without noticing that you're working so hard.
So I want to say that I'm an anti-sexist, but what I'm about to say now could be construed differently. So with that in mind, when I meet up with, or when I just notice Latinas out on the street or at work or, of course, social, Latinas tend to dress up
Oh yeah.
almost all the time. And now this is like a face-saving thing, or it's just putting it all out there, or it's a cultural thing. And actually, it's just the way that women want to look at women, or women want men to look at them and appreciate their beauty, or all that there is to look at.
I'm gonna speak for myself and maybe for
Yeah,
my
I'm going
my
to stop talking.
other, but it's true. It's dressing up and looking good, maybe even sexy, looking good is other, because we want to look good, we want to feel good, and it's like you bring outside to the exterior how you feel inside, and I want to look. I feel good. I want to look good. I want to feel, attractive. I dress up attractive. But it's not, it doesn't, it's with that sexual connotation that I just want to, flirt with people and that. And I'm going to put you a good example. When I work in Venezuela, you dress up and you walk on the streets and you are in a skirt, people are going to say, wee, wee, ooh, those legs. And it's not harassment. It's part of the culture. And at some point, women expect to, get compliments out of that. But when you bring it to the corporate world, it can be misunderstood. But I think it's all this culture of sexual harassment. When the policy of sexual harassment arrived to our affiliate in Venezuela, where we said, well, I don't know, everybody's gonna go here we'll have some problems, because women in the office are used to get, oh, you smell well, or when we greet people, we greet with a hug, with a kiss, and that doesn't have any sexual connotation. Is the way we approach. And then you dress up, you expect men to give you compliments, or other women, but in other cultures it's bad. And I think it's very cultural, and when you don't receive any compliments, it's kind of like, I think it's an ego booster. But Latin women, we know how to uh, carry that part of us. It's like my husband always told me, that's something that why I fell in love with him, is that I like Latin women because they know how to be women, and there's no shame of that. Like, that's why you have Miss Universe and Miss Venezuela. They are just more than a beautiful woman. And in Venezuela, there's a saying: there's not an ugly woman, but a not well dressed up woman. No hay una mujer fea, sino mal arreglada. So even an ugly woman can be beautiful if you dress up and you put it. So it's cultural. And you men can get in trouble, but in Venezuela there were so many expats, and pretty much all of them went back with a Venezuelan wife, and it's just the way. I mean, Steven got his Venezuelan Mexican
Hey, leave
girl.
me out of
My
this.
husband, he was, so you're gonna end up marrying a Latina, and I think it's a personality. We know how to be women, and make us. I mean, make people respect us being women. It doesn't have anything. Of course, there are Latinas that exaggerate in the dress up and, making everything too obvious. There's a thing of being sexy and attractive and then vulgar. And that's kind of the fine line. You can be, very good looking, sexy, look attractive, but without being vulgar. That's a fine line. So
This sounds like a book coming, Stephen, doesn't it?
I don't know. By the way, Ileana, that's a gorgeous scarf you're wearing. No, it's true. Again, it goes to cultural differences, and it's interesting. I made the comment earlier, Ed, in the chat box that the four of us, and there was 5 for 4 when Karina was here, are all living outside our native cultures and have learned to adapt and understand different cultures. And you're the sole person who born and raised in one country and still living in that country.
Yeah, but I relocated from Boston in the Northeast to San Diego.
Total different culture.
Farthest away possible without going to Hawaii.
Yeah. But so and that's to kind of put a bow around this to link it all together. It's appreciating the individual that you're leading, the individual that you're interacting with, whether it's customer service or sales or whatever it is, and understanding that everyone's unique, as Ileana said. I mean, she's speaking for herself. She doesn't represent the 500 million Latina women around the world, or whatever the number happens to be. But there are some commonalities in that, and so she's speaking to that from heart, and that's what we've all had to learn to do. I mean, when I go to Japan, I wear a suit and tie, and I'm very formal, and I lower my voice, and I reduce my hand gestures. I'm still me, I'm still authentic, but I'm appreciating that the people I'm dealing with have a different cultural background. When Japanese come to the United States or Mexico and I interact with them, I don't have to modify my behavior as much because now I'm in my home territory, so to speak. And they will adapt a little bit, and they're a little bit more outgoing outside Japan than when they're in Japan. So it's all about appreciating the individual.
People appreciate when you explain it, how you like to be called. I don't know if that's correct, and I don't feel disrespectful when they ask. And I lived in Russia for 2 years, and Sergey, I don't know if you're from Russia or from other area, but I found it fascinating, the dynamic of the women there, because Russia has the most beautiful women ever. Venezuela too, and then they're famous, but I think it's two different features, different profile. It's a different beauty, but beautiful, beautiful women, and they dress up. They are, and I think same way. I think we share that. But I don't know. It's like I don't know. I wanted to give compliments to the women, but I said, well, maybe they're gonna think that I'm lesbian or not, and no problem with that. But I just like to compliment everyone, men or women there, but they say, oh, you look so, and then I said, oh yeah, thank you. And we found that's how, in a way, how we broke the ice between the two, because I went as an expat to mentor and coach a lot of women, because the majority of the group in that office were women. And in a way, they, not that they feel threatened, but they say, why is this woman here, coming here to teach me what, or to, and we broke the ice in the way that women break the ice, by complimenting each other. Oh, where did you buy those shoes? Oh, I love those shoes, and stuff like that. And so it's just finding those commonalities, but not every culture or every women can speak the same language in other places, because it's maybe beauty is, it's something that it's not as important. And I'm not saying that beauty is the most important thing, but beauty, it's just more than a beautiful face and dressing good. It's a beauty that I think also comes from the inside. There can be beautiful women, but with such an ugly personality, and those are, or the opposite. So I find it really interesting, the way the cultures handle the different aspects of that.
I've learned a lot from listening to you. So thank you. Well, shall we continue this conversation or end it on this high note?
Well, one advice is that be respectful. I mean, with Latinas, if they look nice or that, they appreciate the compliment. Be respectful. And so I think if they're taking the wrong side, I mean, I apologize, but I think every woman Latina, again, speaking from Latina's perspective, they expect to have like a compliment. In Venezuela, we call it piropo, right? Or un piropo. That's always welcome.
That's nice. Thank you for being on Global TV Talk Show. This is a wonderful way to close the show. And I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. And thank you, Karina, for being on the show earlier. And I welcome you to come back and be as open and descriptive as you all were today. I appreciate it. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.